G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. It is grand final week, of course, 𝐓𝐴𝐶 versus Lions, and today we're going to be having a chat about the game and seeing who I think will win the game of sport alongside 𝐼𝐴𝐶𝐞 and the highest goal scorer. Two very deserving sides, of course, so really keen for this weekend and this video. If you are yourself, make sure you like and subscribe if you do come to enjoy, and let's get straight into it. As always, we'll have a quick look on how it went from the previous round, that being the prelim finals, of course, and I got myself just the 1 out of 2, tipping the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 over the Hawks for them to advance to the grand final. And I did tip the Pies over the Lions. I was thinking if the game was going to come down to moments, just had a bit more trust in Collingwood to get it done, but Brisbane, a real powerful win as the game did grew on. Now their midfield pantsed the Pies in the end, and a very deserving berth in the grand final. So 1 out of 2 it was. And a quick look at my tipping competition leaderboard updates. We have a lead change for the first time in a while. 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐻 moved down to second, and it is actually 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐿 leading my competition now, only by 1 point with a total score of 192. So now let's begin with the grand final preview and tips for this video. Of course, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 take it on the Lions at the MCG Saturday 2:30 PM at local time, and two very deserving sides to make it, I think, across the span of this year, but not necessarily this year, with both of arguably the best two teams being in it. You look back to, let's say, 2019, where I read this somewhere. Since 2019, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 and the Lions have both made 3 grand finals, both have won a premiership, and the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 have made 6 prelim finals, Brisbane have made 5 prelim finals. So it's going to be not only two deserving sides, but two very successful ones heading into this game this weekend. Both clubs striving for their 5th premiership this century. How about that as well? When looking at both teams from face value, you could probably say the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 are the most well-balanced and well-coached side, whilst the Lions, looking at from more of a list point of view, probably the most talented list in the competition. 𝐶𝐴𝐶 have been a really well-drilled side this season. They've had a soft run home, but their 2 finals performances have been really impressive to get to where they are today. When they're up and about, they barely have any passages. They have a bunch of players out there who play their role superbly well, and with how the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 look, they always have those B/C graders look like A graders at times. Of course, Brisbane are also a well-drilled side, but it's more about those superstar players they have. They bat so deep in the midfield. Most likely going to get Lachie Neale back in this week. Jarryd Berry will be out though. And whilst their form's been a little bit up and down, they've been a fantastic side bouncing back this season, and they get so much from those star players like Cam Rayner and Zach Bailey when the whips are cracking. Terrific depth in that midfield, and one of the best clearance teams in the AFL. They've been a really resilient side. They've faced a handful of injuries across the span of this year, especially the back half of the season. Jack Payne's a big one, and look how Harris Andrews has gone to plug in the hole, an All-Australian key defender. And not only is that their 3rd grand final in a row, but also entering the long route, not doing it from 2 finals wins. They've lost a game or they've gone through elimination final. And for the 𝐶𝐴𝐶, yes, they've had a soft run home, but the last 2 weeks have displayed a really ruthless finals brand. They've been tough on the inside, but also efficient. They've brought elite pressure and intensity and have been extremely sharp off the turnover. A real well-oiled machine, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶. Everybody playing their part, a really connected side too. The biggest feat they arguably have, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶, is the running power they have through the middle of the ground. They have a lot of gut runners like Bailey Smith and Max Holmes, but you can't forget about that small 4 quartet. Sean Manor, Brian Myers, Brad Close and Tyson Stengel. They all get on their bike, they get out the back. They're really good users inside 50, and as we've seen all year long, and especially against Brisbane early in the first week of the final series, when you let them get out goal side, they can be very dangerous. But also they're working tight to have those clever little knock-ons or get it from inside or out quick as a flash. They do it better than pretty much any team in the competition. And in regards to the midfield, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 might not have as strong as of a midfield on paper in comparison to Lions, but they are a team that don't mind the inside ball, and they can really at least break even and show some ferocity in there like they've been these first 2 weeks. Both their finals wins against the Lions and the Hawks actually have won the centre clearance battle as well, and they've just been a really efficient side from stoppage. And speaking of efficiency, the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 are the most efficient team in the competition with getting goals per inside 50. They lower their eyes really well. Key to that is definitely the small forwards, but they just have an abundance of players that are really good inside 50 users. So the 𝐶𝐴𝐶 on the outside, one of the best teams in the league, and a very efficient side too, and ain't afraid to show a bit of toughness in the middle, given what we've seen these first 2 weeks in the final series. But Brisbane, let's not forget about them as well. A real powerful midfield, and it's what got the job done over the Pies as the game did grow on. One of the best clearance and territory teams in the competition. They might set 11th though with goals per inside 50 in comparison to the 𝐶𝐴𝐶, who are second, but they definitely have the power and class to find a way and generate a lot of opportunities from those midfielders. They kicked 8 goals goals combined from the midfielders last week. McCluggage all season long has been fantastic as that smooth moving midfielder and really been able to up his score involvements this season. Dunkley is that defensive midfielder, has played a part. He's racked up double-digit tackle games, left, right and centre. 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐻𝐿 most likely going to come back into this game. They've played pretty good football without him, but 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐻𝐿 is 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐻𝐿. He'll definitely get some cleanliness and composure in the middle. And the Ashcroft brothers, of course, show plenty of poise and really good skill in traffic too. It's a really intriguing midfield battle, this one. When looking at the Cats with Smith and Holmes, you can't forget about Tom Atkins racking up those tackles and playing his role. And Mark 𝐵𝐻𝐿𝐴 as that main ruckman should stay in my opinion. I know they've got Tom Stewart out. Do they probably bring in someone like Jed Hughes? And perhaps they could bring in Stanley as well. But his follow-up work, Mark 𝐵𝐻𝐿𝐴, has been huge and a really underrated player on how the Cats have been so good on the ground level game and on the inside, because he has the body of a 𝐓𝐡𝐿 𝐻𝐿𝐴 and he's been terrific on that inside game. So I'd probably keep him as that ruckman that's able to follow up his work. Definitely has the athleticism to take on the dual ruck setup, of course, of Oscar McInerney and Darcy Ford, I reckon. We'll see what the team list be in the end, perhaps, but I just personally think that's what could happen in my opinion. But yeah, the midfield battle, a really intriguing one. Brisbane have the ability to dominate in clearance. Whilst Geelong, they aren't necessarily a high clearance side differential-wise, but they have the poise, they have the class, they have the running power and the cleanliness, getting the ball from inside or out and really catching teams out the back with those gut runners, with those small forwards, and of course, Smith and Holmes as well. Just look at that week one matchup when the Cats got the ball from inside or out off the spread. They were way too dangerous and too good for the Lions. For matchups, the Cats, especially this back half of the year, have really started to shut down on some players. 𝐼𝐶 𝐼𝐿𝐴's been a terrific target this year, and he got the chocolates over Hugh McCluggage. Had one of his worst games of the season. Only one score involvement, and when he gets over usually 8.5 or something like that, Brisbane are winning basically all their games. So you think surely 𝐼𝐶 𝐼𝐿𝐴 does go on to Hugh McCluggage, as he is bounced back really well the last two games after that tag. And Mark O'Connor has to be one of those big bodies. Think someone like Cam Rayner. He has the discipline to really take him out of the game. For the Lions, Josh Dunkley, terrific defensive-minded midfielder, of course. Maybe does he go on one of those big body midfielders? I'm thinking someone like Patrick Dangerfield probably will start in the opening centre bounce. Terrific prelim final performance he had, and when he is playing that aggressive game like he did in that prelim final, it's like he's playing against a bunch of boys. His strength in the contest is outstanding. He has a terrific knack on getting those offloading hand passes out. And yeah, he's just such a strong player. So Dunkley, think maybe starts on him. Not only is it the midfield, but Brisbane also have been one of the best teams this year on just being able to control the game and get the game on their terms. A very high mark side usually. And yeah, they love the kick mark game. Look against Collingwood, for example. They set the tone well. They dominated uncontested possessions and they ended up winning that stat by around 50+. They usually like to chip their way up the ground, hit those short lead options, and when they see something in the corridor, they get it, they go, and they go quite fast. And that's what the Cats did really well in week one. They shut that down with their forward pressure extremely well. Obviously, did their homework on how the Lions move the football, close up the corridor, and were very deadly off the turnover. So, yeah, the Lions definitely going to be heading into this one with that on the back of their minds. But I thought what they did really well, the Lions, against the Pies in that prelim final, is they weren't afraid to use the widths of the MCG. Their running power, and they cover the ground really well, so they get the kick mark game going, but really push out to the wings, use the widths of the MCG, and then when it was on, hit the kick back inboard into the corridor at, let's say, half forward, and then they get, generate their score off that. But yeah, Brisbane have been a fantastic ball moving side. They can be a really fast side when they're on, and an efficient one too. But if the Cats are going to bring that great 4.5 pressure that they're known for, and lock the ball in that front half, and really stifle the Lions ball movement like they did in week one, that's going to be a key area for them should they win. So both teams do possess really good strengths, great midfield, great pressure when they're on, and yeah, they are sharp and usually effective sides off the turnover. Both teams possess very strong defences. Yes, they are going to be without Tom Stewart, the Cats, but just how they defend as a back six, they set up really well behind the football, and for Brisbane, it's hard to look past the All-Australian of Harris Andrews. No, Jack Payne's really been able to, I think, improve as the season has gone on almost, Harris Andrews. He's had some big finals performances. Of course, that second half in the prelim final last week, a bunch of intercept possessions in that third quarter to win the ball back and put on a big third term score to pretty much end the game. The Cats did it really well in week one. They just didn't go near Harris Andrews, a lot of inside 50s. They didn't really put it on its head. They were really good on being able to lower their eyes and hit some good targets into the pockets and onto leads. So if you can take Harris Andrews out of the game like that, just don't kick it near him, or at least have a forward doing a bit of a job on him and maybe blocking him legally to not allow him to go up for the ball. That's definitely going to erase some headaches for Chris Scott and his coaching crew. So it's a fantastic looking grand final matchup no matter where you look. The Cats, they're classy, they're efficient. Brisbane, they're powerful through that midfield. I've loved how the Cats have played these first 2 weeks, as I state. Again, they have been ruthless, a really ruthless looking finals brand. They don't mind a bit of chaos ball, but they're also clean and sharp from getting the ball from inside to out. They've got running power and some gut runners with those small forwards, but Smith and Holmes also provide plenty of drive. Brisbane, they love to move the ball quick. They love to take the game on, and I think they're still going to be rolling the dice and taking maybe some risks through the corridor, even if the Cats perhaps do close a little bit, but won't be afraid to use the wits of the MCG, and you'd think right from the get-go want to dominate that kick mark game. Look at the first quarter against the Swans in the grand final last year. They dominated in the uncontested marks and pretty much built the game off that. Brisbane also need a big game from some of those small forwards. Charlie Cameron and Kyle Lohmann were fairly quiet last week. They've been a little bit up and down, but just think of that grand final last year. 𝐼𝐴𝐺𝐸, a bit of Charlie Cameron, and even Lohmann was huge. So whilst their midfield is a strong suit, definitely need a bit of output from those small forwards. So there is a bit of a chat about either side and their strengths and what they need to do, etc. So now to moving on who I think wins the game of football. It's tough. It's two really good quality sides heading into this one. This is Brisbane's third grand final in a row. I think there's a bit more of the favouritism leaned on the Cats, given they are looking like an extremely stable side. They haven't lost in basically 2 months, whilst Brisbane's form has been a little bit up and down. They have shown a bit of a soft underbelly, have been exposed a little bit more than the Cats. Really could go either way this one, but I just have a bit more of the feeling on the Cats for me. My initial tip for the flag was Brisbane, don't get me wrong, and look, I still want to be sort of cheering that on in a way, even though I'm going to be going with the Cats in this one, but their first 2 finals from what I've seen regarding the Cats have been really impressive. Like, they have genuinely displayed a ruthless final brand, as we have said. They don't seem like pushovers for me. Brisbane are going to have to play probably at the absolute best if they're any chance in my eyes. Brisbane definitely have the midfield power and class to get this game done. But I'm backing, I think, a bit more on the Cats side of their elite intensity and pressure from what they've displayed in these first 2 weeks. They really stifled Brisbane's ball movement in week 1. And look, we've seen in the past some qualifying finals matchups the first time around can look a little bit different to grand final matchups. So I am aware that Chris Fagan and his coaching crew definitely will be heading in this one probably with some changes and knowing what needs to be done. But yeah, with how the Cats have led into this grand final and how they've played, it's hard for me to go against them, to be honest. I feel they're good enough on breaking even the midfield, but the game could potentially come down to who is going to be a bit more of that efficient side, especially from the midfield. And I see that's where the Cats have been fantastic all year long. And they are also the number 1 team with points from forward half, the Cats. So they're going to be bringing some elite intensity and pressure, and I think that's going to be a key area for them winning this game of footy. So really could see this one going either way, leaning towards the Cats. So I'm going to be going Geelong in this one by 14 points. It's going to be a ripper. We'll quickly go over now my 𝐼𝐴𝐺𝐸 medal and my top goal scorer predictions. I'm going to be going with the 𝐼𝐴𝐺𝐸 medal. Max Holmes, as I've been saying in this preview, it's about the outside game for the Cats. Their running power they get from those midfielders, and their transition game is fantastic, the Cats, and I'm feeling Max Holmes could have definitely a big one. Might not necessarily be a game winner, I'm thinking, but probably more from a 4-quarter perspective is going to have a really consistent outing in my eyes. So Max Holmes for the 𝐼𝐴𝐺𝐸, and highest goal scorer. If the Cats are to win, it's going to be one of those small forwards, I reckon. And 𝐼𝐵 𝐸𝐺𝐸 had a beautiful 2022 grand final performance against the Swans. He's no stranger to some big games with the MCG. I'm going to go 𝐼𝐵 𝐸𝐺𝐸 in this one with 3 goals. So over on there is my 2025 AFL grand final preview and tips. Let me know down below what you're thinking heading into this one. It's a really good looking contest. I'm hoping for a close grand final. I think we are going to get it. Both teams have very similar strengths, and it's going to come right down to the wire and some key moments throughout key areas of the game. So that's it from me, everybody. Hopefully you did enjoy, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.